Welcome back to The Magic and the Music. I'm Jen.
I'm Randall.
And today we have a very, very interesting topic for you.
Yes.
Our topic is, what's it really like at Disney World right now?
Yes. What is it like?
And how do we know?
We've been there.
We've been there. Well, we traveled to Disney World by air, and we stayed 11 nights at 4 different Disney Vacation Club resorts.
Yeah.
And we also spent 11 days in the theme parks.
Yeah. It was a bit tiring.
Yeah, it was a long trip.
And exciting, but, it was also incredibly relaxing, too, at times. So
It was a surreal experience.
Yeah,
So we're going to talk to
you
because some of you may be looking at rescheduling trips and thinking about when you're going to do those, or you might have a trip coming up, and like us, we're grappling with whether you should go. And it's a really difficult decision, and there's a lot to weigh in on, and a lot of factors. And so we wanted to give you the honest truth. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to be honest with you about what it's really like. So if you want to know that, stick around, and we're going to get right into it. All right, first of all, why in the world would we even consider going to Disney World right now? We did have some friends and family members who were like, are you crazy? Why would you even go right now? Cancel your trip. Well, if you have a cash reservation and you could cancel your trip and simply get your money back, that's probably what we would have done. And that's actually what a lot of people had done. And that's probably a great move for most people. We had been planning this trip for more than a year, and we actually had the trip coinciding with some good friends of ours who had a cash reservation. Cash reservations meaning they had a reservation directly with Disney. Disney allows you to go ahead and reschedule or cancel those, and you can get all your money back.
Yeah.
But we did not have a cash reservation.
Nope.
We are Disney Vacation Club members, as you probably know, and we love it. But one of the downsides is that, the money for those vacation points for the lodging at Disney World was spent long ago, years ago. And so it's not a situation where we can just go to Disney and say, hey, give us our money back. Right. We have points that are going to expire, quite a good number of points that are going to expire on October 1st. And if we don't use them, we are in a position to lose them. And so it's not just simply a question of give us our money back, we'll come back later. That was going to go away if we didn't use it. Second factor for us is most people have theme park tickets, like our friends, who can then just use those on a different date. We are coming up on the end of our annual passes for our family. Disney did offer the option of getting a refund on your passes, but we are at the very, very tail end. So the amount of refund that we would be eligible for would be,
pretty small.
Pretty small. These tickets are much more valuable to us to be able to attend, Disney World with them. And you want to address maybe the health piece of that too?
Another reason why we are going is that everyone in our family does not have any risk factors related to COVID-19. Another is that we are going to be self-quarantining when we come home. And we really find that this is an important part of all this.
It's probably the most important one.
Yeah. Because, we don't want to get anything while we're there and then come back and then give it to any of our loved ones or coworkers or really anyone. So it's important for us to take those extra precautions to make sure that we manage this as best as we can.
Right. And we recognize that, you take on a risk for yourself, but that's something that we don't want to be handing over to other people, or forcing on other people. And so we really want to be respectful of everybody else in our family and community.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the big questions that people have is about wearing masks in the theme parks, particularly in summer. And that was another thing. People are like, are you crazy? You're going to wear a mask?
A mask in summer?
In like 95 degrees and humidity. A lot of times the heat index was up to like 105 on the days that we were there.
Toasty.
So guess what? Just wear the mask.
Yeah, just wear the mask.
It's really not that big a deal.
Yeah. It's really actually shocking how much you adjust to it.
Yeah.
That,
You can learn to do anything.
And it was really, on the whole, not a problem at all.
I think it's really like your mindset about it. If you walk into it and you're like, oh, this is going to be terrible, I hate this, you're probably not going to have fun and you're going to think about it all the time. But we approached it like we want to have really comfortable masks that we can wear all day long and they're not going to bother us, and especially for our children too, because they had to do it too. We have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and we knew they had to do this also.
Yep.
So we really prioritized getting something that was really, really comfortable. And actually, we have a mask tutorial for a very comfortable mask style, the style that we wore in the theme parks. So we'll put a link up here. Yeah, up there. We'll put a link up here. So look for that link, and that's going to be to the tutorial, which shows you how to make the mask. We made a couple of little modifications to our original pattern to improve them even for travel and for the theme parks. So I'll probably make like a follow-up video for that. But the actual pattern that we used is there, and the basic structure of the mask is all there. So,
and I would say from all the masks that we saw there, even including some that are N95, her mask design actually aligns better and has a better seal on your face and causes you to not mess with your mask.
So the first thing you have to know is, what are Disney's rules for masks? You probably have already looked this up, but basically you have to have everyone who is 2 years old and up has to wear the mask at all times in all public spaces, including the resorts. You cannot wear a neck gaiter. It must attach to your ears or go around your head. It has to come up under the chin. Can't just hang open like a handkerchief or something.
Bandana.
Yeah,
or
bandana.
something like that.
And there can't be any mesh, holes, exhaust vents. That's a newer thing.
Like a little port.
Yeah, a lot
on
of
the
people.
side.
I wouldn't say a lot, but maybe 5% of people had those.
Yeah.
And I wished they had banned those earlier in our trip. They actually banned them at the end.
Yeah.
And so also during our trip, they changed their policy where initially they said you had to wear the mask unless you were eating or drinking. And so there were some people who would have
walk
food
and be
have
like,
a drink.
have a drink, and then their mask
they kind of
is
have
off.
it down. But we didn't like that.
Yeah.
We were not fans of that.
Nope.
And so it's interesting because partway through our trip, Disney came back and said, okay, if you're going to eat or drink, you have to move off to the side. You can't be walking around that way.
Yeah.
And that was a good improvement.
Yeah. And on the whole, I didn't see many people trying to break the rules.
There wasn't a lot of flagrant rule breaking. There was, you'd see a little kid who kind of pulls their mask down. And if that was our kid, ours didn't do that. But if they did, we would have been pull up your mask now.
Pull it up.
But then maybe the parent was just kind of oh, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
And you're kind of come on, get it together.
You do have to police your kids. I mean, that's
you're responsible.
That's kind of one of the burdens of this, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, our kids knew coming in, no mask, no Disney. So no messing around. And they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. They did not challenge us at all.
Yeah. And people say, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to get my kid to abide by these rules. No. That's a total misnomer. It is easy to get your kids to do it.
And it's because it's however you present it to them. They completely take the cues off of you. If you say, well, this is what we're doing, then you do it.
Yeah.
They will do what you do. Yeah. If you're constantly tugging at your mask and searching for excuses to take it off, of course your child's going to do the same thing. You have to set the example of what you expect from them. And if you are showing self-discipline, they are a lot more likely to show self-discipline. So another thing that we observed a lot in the theme parks was that people had pretty good intentions, and everybody wore their mask. But there were certainly a lot of people whose masks didn't fit as well as I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of people whose masks didn't fit up here, around their nose, and it was kind of gaping. Even people wearing N95 masks, sometimes it would fit around here, and then it would get up to their nose, and it would be sticking way up off their nose. And I'm well, then it's not really an N95 mask anymore. We have giant gaping holes around it. It's not filtering out 95% of the stuff anymore. So it was really important to us that the mask be really, really fitted. It has to be flat against the sides. A lot of people had puckered, surgical masks where it would pucker and loop away from their cheeks and stuff. Or they had ones that were tight against their nose and mouth, and then they'd get spit on them. Yeah. And we didn't get spit on ours at all.
Yeah. This is another thing that goes back to our design, is that it gives you kind of some space to breathe up front, and it kind of doesn't have pressure on your nose.
this is an example here of the mask style that we wore. Do you want to maybe put that
Sure.
on? Okay. So he's going to show it.
And
Now,
this is a little bit bigger. She made the
yeah,
pattern
I made the pattern just a little
bit
tiny,
taller.
like a half inch longer. Taller. So he's showing this one, and we did it with an elastic. But I feel we like the stuff around the head rather than on the ears, because then your ears don't get tired, and it just fits really well. But one of the things that I really like is it does have the wire here, so he gets a nice tight fit. Then you don't have that issue so much with steaming your glasses. I will say this, though. When you walk outside in Florida, your glasses will just steam immediately, and then it takes time for them to kind of like adjust. So also you'll notice, can I have you turn?
Sure.
So you'll notice that this sticks out a bit from his nose. So it's not actually against the end of his nose. He has a little bit of space, and it's not touching the center of his lips. Like, he can talk and move inside of it.
Yeah.
And his lips aren't rubbing against the mask.
And I like this pattern a little bit better because it comes down beneath my chin a little bit better.
I also like, if you turn to the side, you can kind of stretch this out. But I like how you get a really nice flat fit right here. And it's really comfortable. And so that's what we used. Also, I brought one of these out. This is actually one of the inserts. This is my size of insert, so it's a little smaller. But this is a piece of 1500 3M filter media, and we pulled it out of a filter. And I found that you could cut it, and you could actually sew it. So I actually cut like an insert shape, and it has some rigidity to it. And what's nice is you put that inside the mask, and then I'll put it against here so you can see. You put it inside the mask, and it has like some stiffness to it. And then that also kind of holds it away from your face, so it's not touching your mouth. Yeah.
On the whole, I mean, probably the only like downside is like you feel like you have to like talk louder.
Yeah, we definitely strain our vocal cords more, like talking through the masks.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hear cast members.
Yeah.
Because they have masks, and most of them have face shields too. And it's like they're telling you, you know, they're like, how many in your party? And I usually was just like, like, because I don't want to yell.
And it's like talking to the teacher in Peanuts.
Before our beautiful mask model takes his mask off, we were going to show just a couple of quick things.
Here's where I do like blue steel.
You look like Shredder.
The Shredder.
So, a couple other things.
You fooled me for the last time, you turtles.
Another thing we like about the pattern that we did here is that when you do get to a restaurant and you're in a place where it's appropriate for you to remove the mask, then you can actually just pull the top section down.
Right. There's a couple good ways to like eat from this mask, right? So you can either
if you're dining,
if you're kind of wanting like a quick sip of water while you're
you have like
kind of on the go,
like a straw or something.
Yeah, it's like you just go like this, and you can actually see down through kind of the hole, and then you can just kind of get your straw up there and get a sip. And that way, it's nice because you're really not like taking your mask off.
Yeah, and you're not like contaminating stuff. Really.
Yeah,
so
and so it's kind of like you just grab it. Pull it out, sip.
Now,
when
we sit down to eat a meal, this is what we would do. Yeah. So that way you don't even really have to ever touch the outside part of the mask.
It works great for the adults. For our son, it like acts as a catcher for popcorn.
Yes. So he'll like sit down and eat, and we look, and there's like food in there.
It's like a little trough. He could just bend down.
Or the other thing is you can't lose the mask. And it's just convenient. So we're big fans of that. So there you go. Well, you can check out the link if you like that. But yeah, so we are big advocates of getting masks that fit really, really well. The other thing is you might think that like the thinner the better. I've seen a lot of people have really thin masks that were just kind of hanging on their face. But then it's bothering you. It's like touching you. You actually want your mask to have some rigidity so that it stays off your mouth and the tip of your nose. Right. You'll notice, I don't know if you can tell, but we didn't break out. Another thing, people said, oh, I keep getting all of these breakouts from the mask. If your mask isn't rubbing against your face, you're not going to probably have a breakout. We didn't have any problems with that. We thought we would. No.
We did change our mask every day.
Oh, yeah. New mask every day. Oh, and other people kept saying, bring a bunch of masks. So I was sewing like crazy, and I had so many masks for our family because I thought we need at least 2 a day. Because our masks have that rigidity to them, they stick out, they didn't get wet.
Yeah, no.
And my kid, I've seen little kids where they like chew on it, and and they like lick it and it gets all wet and gross.
Yeah.
If the mask doesn't touch your lips, they don't lick it or chew on it.
Yeah.
So our children even didn't need extra masks. We were sure they would need extra changes.
Yeah, I thought they would.
And they didn't.
No.
They didn't need it. It just wasn't necessary.
And even if you're on like a wet ride, Splash Mountain or something,
never got
the
wet.
thing like I took a full face full of water, and it dried off in no time.
It was nothing.
It's not like an issue. Even if it gets wet, it's not like you might actually like that it's wet.
Well, the thing is that like because it's
bit.
rigid, it just dries in the same shape. Yep. Doesn't matter. If you had something that was really thin and lightweight, and I know people are thinking, I want something lightweight and breathable.
Yeah.
If it's really lightweight and breathable, well, one, it's not really doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And two, like what's the point of wearing it? And two, when it gets wet, then it just collapses on your face, and then you got this wet thing hanging on your face. That sounds awful.
Yeah, and I've actually had to wear surgical masks at work a lot, and I much prefer this over that because the surgical masks, although they are surgical, they press on your nose a lot, and it's not, and it like pulls on your ears. So these are two things that you avoid with this style mask.
This style was great for like the marathon of what we were doing. So. Yeah,
and I think for managing your comfort at the parks, that's what you want to have.
Mask comfort is right up there with shoe comfort.
Oh yeah, I will say that.
Yeah.
Mask. Yeah. So take some time to figure out your mask.
Yeah. One last little thing I wanted to address, and I heard some of the mask naysayers online were like, oh, you're going to have the dumbest looking tan lines ever. Well, look at us.
Yeah. Look
at our faces. I know they're goofy looking faces.
Yeah.
But do we have goofy looking tan lines? We spent 11 days at Disney World.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I liked it because I got less sun exposure. Because I had sunglasses, and then I had a mask. And there was basically, the only part of my face that was exposed at all was my forehead.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
One other thing about the masks, and I did notice this, is I could still smell the smells in a lot of the rides, but it did deaden the smells. And so I'm like, oh, these must be working, because I'm not getting a face full of skunk in... Journey into Imagination. And it felt like they were a lot lessened. And there were some places where I don't even know if they used any smell. In some of the resorts, I was like, I can't smell anything at all. And then there were some others where it was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of smell here. But like, I definitely felt like the olfactory experience was much reduced from wearing a mask. But that's good because it means it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah. Our next topic is air travel. This is something that we were pretty nervous about, and I think a lot of you who have to travel by air were pretty nervous about. We live a long way from Disney World. There's no way you're going to be driving unless it was an emergency.
Yeah.
So it was a mixed bag. I would say it was 80% really good.
Yeah.
And then 20% like, ooh, this could be better.
We have seen some videos and seen some studies that show that, air travel is relatively safe as long as you're wearing your mask. And it's better if people don't have a seat between people. Right.
So we kind of took that to heart, like having the spacing on the plane. So we really carefully monitored, like what the flights were looking like. If, and our airline maintained the empty seats between, which was really good. Yeah. I don't think we would have gone if they didn't do that.
Yeah. This was actually kind of part of our why as well, was we had looked at rescheduling to a later date, and a later date, they were booking the center seat.
Right. And we were like, oh, no, we don't want to go.
We didn't want that.
So we're like, well, let's go now where they're being more conservative with the amount of seats they give out. So that's good.
And as far as the air travel, our big thing was we were not going to eat on the plane.
We would not remove our masks on the plane.
Oh, that was a big one.
Yeah. And we didn't. Yeah. Now, I mean, our kids can take their water bottle out and pop the sipper thing up, and they can pull their mask up and stick this inside and take a sip of water, but that's it. Yeah. Like, I don't want them breathing in a whole face full of airplane. And, like we said, we looked at, opinions from experts, and it really seemed to consistently say that they have really excellent filtration on the plane. We realize there's a risk because if somebody has COVID-19 and they're sitting right behind you, you're getting exposed to it. but hopefully we are getting a small enough dose that it's not going to be, something that we get infected with. So fingers crossed. So anyway, I would say overall the experience was very good. Our home airport was very good.
Practically empty.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Orlando International Airport, MCO, I had low expectations, and it was actually fine.
That was fine.
I really didn't have a problem with it. It's a big airport, so there's a lot of space to spread out. That was fine. On our way back, we had direct flight originally, and then they canceled it, and we had to do a connecting flight. And unfortunately, when we stepped off the plane to make the connection, all of a sudden it was like, whoa, this place is crowded.
It was a lot busier.
Yeah, it was a lot busier. And that was really disconcerting. And because everything had gone really smoothly up to that point. And then we stepped off the plane. We're like, where did all these people come from? Yeah. It could be mixed. I think you see a lot of reports of like the airport's really empty, and it can be. But you also have to be prepared for anything.
Yeah. I mean, it could also be very busy.
Getting back to the Disney specific stuff. Once we got to Disney, we were like, all right, I'm not as worried. Yeah. I know what we're going to... Like, we know what to expect kind of at Disney. So, thank you to all the vloggers who are out there reporting on those first few days of opening, because I can tell you our decision about whether to go or not hinged very much on what those videos looked like and what those experiences were. So, Magical Express. It wasn't a bus.
Yeah, it wasn't a bus, but that was to be expected. When we arrived, it was fairly early. Yeah. So there weren't many people, if almost any, there.
So it was like a van and a driver. Yeah. And he wore a mask.
And he wore a mask, and we were in the very back.
Yeah,
so
it was great.
It worked out great.
So that was ideal. Definitely felt a lot more comfortable. And I will say, on our trip, the most anxious time was like the first 24 hours. Like the first time you do anything. Yeah. You're like, ooh, what's this going to be like? How's this going to be? And, I was anxious about that, like what to expect. After we got into our rhythm, after like maybe day 2, we got into a rhythm, and and then once you go to all 4 parks, you like really know what to expect. And it's just sort of like, okay, we've got this down. We know how to do this. But in the beginning, you're figuring it out. Right. So give yourself a little bit of time and patience, because it takes more time.
Your kind of priorities change. Right. So
the safety is more important than getting on Space Mountain 12 times.
Right. So I mean, we were.
Oh, you still probably could.
Yeah. So one of the other big ways that you get around Disney is via the buses. We found.
I was going to just add, we discussed possibly renting a car.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say, "Oh, there's no way we'll get on the bus. We're going to rent a car." Well, we went ahead and did the buses.
Yeah, I felt that the buses were very good. Yeah. In terms of that. They were not overloaded at the time. We do have to put that disclaimer, is that with higher amounts of people going to the parks, we don't know what that's going to look like.
That could change
in the future.
Time.
So, at least what we experienced was that, for the most part, it was us and maybe 2 other groups. They spaced us out.
Most often, it was only us.
Yeah.
And occasionally, there'd be like one other family.
Yeah.
And when they did, we were on opposite ends of the bus.
Yeah,
and then they kept the vent up on top would be open.
Right. So the vent up on top is always open. They were actually airing it out between pickups.
We didn't have any especially long waits.
No long waits.
Maybe 20 minutes might have been the absolute longest.
Yeah, I don't think I saw any ECVs.
Yeah,
almost none.
There were very few ECVs, and that's often something that takes a lot of time on buses. So that was just a difference. Monorail. Tell me about monorails.
Monorails are great.
We love obviously. We love monorails.
We love the monorail.
So how did you feel safe on the monorail?
Oh, yeah. I felt that the monorail was excellent because they basically put one party per cabin area.
Yeah, but they have a partition between. So it's like the one cabin, but it has that row of seats in the middle, and then there's like a vinyl partition. So each of those is now divided into a separate cabin. Yeah.
So that worked out very effectively. And, on the whole, the monorail ride is pretty short anyways.
Yeah. There was, we had to wait longer one time at park closing for the resort monorail because they weren't running any boats at that time. We were going to Polynesian from Magic Kingdom. Right. And they did put us on one side of the cabin, and then they put another family on the opposite side. Which, I don't want to do that for,
all
an
the time.
hour.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not a big deal for like 5 minutes.
5 minutes, it's doable.
I didn't really care for 5 minutes. They were still like 8 feet
Yeah.
away from me. So
yeah.
anyway, and they were wearing their masks well, so that was good too. Boats.
Boats were also good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Boats are awesome. So I'll talk about boats for a second. We
Sure.
stayed at Wilderness Lodge for part of our stay, and we did take the boat over, and we had a private boat from Wilderness Lodge to Magic Kingdom, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had more of a full boat on the way back, but again, that's not even half the seats taken
Right.
up. So, and you know, there was plenty of space, plenty of airflow. Mm-hmm. You could opt to sit in an outdoor area if you wanted.
Yeah.
And everyone's wearing their masks, and it was really nice.
Yeah, I'd say the boats are actually, if you want more airflow, probably the boat is a good option.
Yeah, and especially maybe like the open air area of the boat.
And
Skyliner!
I think honestly, probably the best for the transportation was probably the Skyliner.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, it is basically one party to a cabin. Like, I don't think they did.
I don't think they would ever put two together.
Yeah,
no.
And they were, it has enough loading capacity. That's not even a big issue.
And honestly, it wasn't even really different for us because we're a family of 4 with a stroller. So like, we barely ever been in a cabin with anybody else either. All they could ever do is put 1 or 2 people with us, and that's kind of crowded. I mean, it would have to be very busy for them to do that. Yeah. So like, to us, it just kind of felt normal. Yeah.
It was very straightforward, and I mean, they need more Skyliner.
More like different runs of Skyliner.
More runs of
Skyliner. More lines. Yeah, we love it. So Skyliner, yay, 2 thumbs up. Yay. Now we are moving on to the health screenings and the security and entry into the theme parks. What is it like? So I was initially a little stressed out about the idea that they'd be doing temperature screenings because I thought, oh no, what if we're hot? We've been walking outside, whatever, it's Florida in the summer. And guess what? It was no big deal.
Yeah. It was super easy.
Nothing.
Yeah. You just walked up and they would point the thing at your head and take the temperature, and then...
If you're sick, maybe that will be a big deal.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be going.
Yeah, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, so don't go. But
don't go.
But yeah, everybody was healthy our whole trip, and so we just breezed right through. It was very fast.
Yeah, very, very, very quick. And they had I didn't feel even. We tended to go in a little bit later.
Yeah, because we were really trying to make sure we weren't around big crowds.
Yeah, so we never sat in a line outside of the park.
Went right in.
And usually we went, I don't know, an hour after open. So, I mean...
Hour and a half, maybe?
I'd say a solid strategy is if you don't want to wait in line on the outside where things aren't more controlled, if you will, then it's better to just wait a little bit and go a little bit after the initial rush there.
Yeah, so that strategy worked out really well for us. Security. So security was a little bit inconsistent because it's not handled exactly the same in every park.
Well, I think they're also they're kind of learning it too. Yeah. I think they're trying to figure out how do we describe this to people, because
basically, you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong. So basically, if you have metal stuff like umbrellas, metal water bottles, electronics, things like that, you take them out and you put them in like a bin. And then you walk through holding your actual bag. Like my purse, I would hold and then walk through like a metal detector thing.
Yeah. So
then I only got like extra scrutiny like one time. And I don't even really know why. What you care about is, did it feel safe? Were people touching, putting their hands all over your stuff? No, they weren't. For the most part, if they wanted to see something, they would ask you to open it. And you open it up, you show them the thing, they see it, okay, fine.
Probably the toughest part was that I had that one time and I couldn't understand the guy because he had his mask.
Oh, the mask and the face shield.
I'm like,
and they're like,
you want? Which one do you want me to open? Oh, okay, I'll open that.
And I'm like, I don't know what you want.
Yeah.
Like, just tell me. So that was a little challenging. But hey, okay. Entry into the park was easy.
Very easy.
We never stood in a line.
Just Magic Band.
Yeah, Magic Band scan. No
fingerprints.
No fingerprints. Thank goodness, because that is a nightmare with little kids.
Yeah. Although our kids, because they've done it a bunch of times, they still would go up and touch the dang thing. So then I'm like, now I gotta...
But it has like a cap. Like they made like a specially shaped little lid that like went over it.
But then you still have to have them use the hand sanitizer directly after that. I'm like, come on, kid. Why are you stop touching things?
So anyway, that was easy. That was easy getting in.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, our next segment is going to be about the park experience. What is the experience like? So as you've probably seen online already, there are physical distance markers in the queues. There are tape things on the ground. And we actually saw some workers putting them down at one point, and they had like a
blowtorch.
Yeah, like a blowtorch to keep the thing up.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for those guys because I'm like, oh, it's hot.
Yeah.
And they're working with a blowtorch
hot
to melt this like vinyl or whatever it is thing onto the ground. And there are a few places where they started to come up, but like mostly they're down.
I kind of wanted to like steal one.
No, that's terrible.
Well, I was like, there was like a few that were like already coming off. I was like, oh, that would be kind of cool.
Keepsake. Weird.
From a weird time.
Very weird time. So we're talking about being in the queues, right? So we were saying how you would think that they would just have like all the markers like 6 feet apart or whatever, but they don't, because there are some places where you have like switchbacks. Right. And you can't have them 6 feet apart because then they're not 6 feet from people on the sides. Right. And there's like a perfect example of this when you are queuing in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, where there's like this whole center switchback where the whole thing's blocked out. You can't go in it. And we kept seeing people who would come up to the line, and then the next line's at the other end of the row. Normally, and they just keep going.
Right. Normally there'd be another line in between.
Right.
Like there'd be a line at the beginning of the switchback, the end of the switchback, and then one at the center. But then they removed the center one because you're trying to prevent the people from the sides, from the other two switchbacks, from being within 6 feet.
So we turned it into a game with our children.
Yeah.
Where we were like, oh, make sure you stop at the line. And like our daughter especially loved it. Our 6-year-old daughter, she loved it because it was like she'd go and then she'd stop her brother. It's like, stop. You know, and so if you can get like your kid to kind of like buy into the game of that, that makes it a lot more fun. It's like, go, stop. Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light. But there were certainly a few families here and there who were careless. Right. Who just kind of and they just forget and they just start wandering. And this is the place where I have a tip for you. If you have children, this is a really convenient tip. My poor kids, they had to keep listening to me whine at them about following the rules, even though they were following the rules. Because I was trying to tell other people to follow the rules. Right. So it's the people behind us or whatever who are getting too close or they're not minding the markings on the floor. And you'll say to the kids, keep your space. Pay attention to the markers. Well, really, they were. Yeah. They weren't doing anything wrong. I'm really trying to say to the teenager behind me, keep your space. Mind the markers. Come on. And it's like, I keep sending that message to them. Or you'd say to the kids, hey, make sure your mask is over your nose. And it's like, all right. And they're like, it is.
It's already over their nose.
And it's like, I know. I'm trying to tell that guy behind me.
This is a polite way of calling you out without calling you out.
Yeah. We can do it nicely. Yeah. So anyway, if you have children, maybe just tell your kids, like, I'm going to really be after you about these rules, but I'm really trying to help remind the big people around you who are forgetting. And it's a more polite way of me doing that, and I'm really not mad at you.
And it's tough, too, because really in the queues are the only places where the Disney staff are not there to kind of...
They're not there all the way.
Right.
Like, they're in places.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of spots where it's like, there's no police there to kind of, like, mandate stuff. Right. So you kind of... You have to speak out.
Yeah, you do. Sometimes we had to say things. I had to use my teacher voice a couple times. Most of the people mostly do a good job. Yeah. So, I had a tip though about another thing about being in a queue. You can get a sense. Read the people that you're going to be in a queue with, especially if it's a longer wait. Right. Like something popular like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. You might be with them for an hour in that queue, maybe, or 40 minutes or whatever. So you want to make sure you're with people who are being mindful and respectful of your space. You can kind of read the families and the groups that are coming in and the people. And so if you see, we found really big parties, really large groups were really difficult because they take up more than one queue marker and they're not always mindful of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, but groups with teenagers in them tended to not wear their masks as well or try to snack in the queue line or whatever. There were some things like that. Or if you just look at a party and you're like, their masks don't fit very well.
Yeah.
Then it's like, there were definitely situations where we went up to the entry to the queue and I kind of was like, okay, I'm judging. And I'm like, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
You go ahead.
You guys go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, we'll follow those people.
Yeah. Okay. we're going to go right behind you. Or, or like, oh, yeah, we're going to go and have these people behind us because they look like they're going to be respectful of our space. And they look like they're wearing their mask properly and they're going to follow the rules. Fingers crossed, hopefully.
We also had a trick for making sure that we kept space in front of us, and that was that the last person in our party is the one that would stand on the line, right? So usually we would have almost a zone and a half in front of us, and that way...
Or you would take a kid and go stand at the marker for our party, then I'd take another kid and stand at the next marker.
Yeah.
So we would like get this space in the middle, and then the other people were like forced to have to move back another marker.
Right.
And that was another strategy. If you have a party ahead of you that's not being very mindful.
Yeah, just
leave an extra marker.
Just leave an extra
Who
marker.
cares? And yeah, there are a couple places where like a cast member will be like, oh, please move on up.
Yeah.
And usually you're like, okay, fine. And every now and then, if there was, I might have said to him, they're not wearing their masks very well. I'm going to hang back.
Yeah.
They're not going to argue with you about it.
Yeah. And it's what we took away from this whole thing too was just, it's your responsibility to take care of yourself.
You have to be, it's like the defensive driving.
Right.
You have to have defensive mask wearing, defensive physical distancing.
Right.
You are the one who's going to defend that because nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Disney has set the system, but you have to be responsible for you and your party. And so if you're not ready to go into the park with that kind of defensive mindset, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
Okay. Other things that they had in the parks, in terms of park experience, the hand washing stations were great. I loved the hand washing stations. Do you want to describe those?
So the hand washing stations had a little thing that you had to pump on it, and they'd
like
have
with your foot.
With your foot, and then it would have spout some water, and also have some paper towels there, as well as some soap. The problem here, though, is that with little kids, they can't really pump the dang thing.
Yeah, you got to do it for them.
So you're sitting there like pumping, and then you're like trying to get them to wash their hands.
It's fine. I'm grateful to have hand washing stations. Yeah. I mean, sanitizer's great, but let's just say we didn't eat any meals with just hand sanitizer alone. We always wanted an actual legitimate hand washing every time we ate anything.
Yeah.
And honestly, the sanitizer like builds up after you've done it 4 or 5 times. Then you really want to actually wash your hands. So I loved that there were lots of stations. I didn't have any problem with my hands drying out. Like at home, your hands would dry out here. It's so humid there. It's not a problem.
Yeah, so I thought that it might be an issue, but
it was not at all.
Not at all.
So hand washing stations were plentiful.
Yeah.
You could usually easily find them. And
hand sanitizer was everywhere.
Yeah, and it was great to not have to go find a bathroom to wash your hands. I was worried about that. Like, I'm going to be constantly walking into all these bathrooms. Yeah. It's great because it's just outside. So I'm not being exposed to more germs. It's just like I can stand here in Frontierland and wash my hands.
There were still a few times when we needed our own hand sanitizer. And
occasionally.
Disinfecting wipes as well. But for the most part, we didn't use ours.
Yeah, we brought way more than we needed. Yeah. So that Disney provided really well for us.
Yeah.
Oh, elevators.
Oh, yes.
At the resorts, because we still have a stroller, at the resorts we still had to use elevators quite a bit. And even Disney was really good about having a little box of wipes, disinfecting wipes, like right by the elevator. And as we all know, the elevator button is a high-touch surface. Right. So we had this little game we made up with our kids, and we said, let's only touch the elevator button with your elbow. So you're taking your elbow and you're going like this. And our kids thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was like a fun challenge. Well, we like it because your elbow can't touch your face. Try it.
Just try it. Try and lick your elbow.
It's going to be a great look for us. So you can't do it.
It's the elbow challenge.
The elbow challenge. So we were like, oh, this is great. I'm going to just do this from now on, Yeah. Because what are the odds that you're going to touch your elbow to elevator button, and then somehow that's going to rub off, and then you're going to put it in your mouth. Like, this is just, like, really unlikely.
Unlikely.
So we liked that. That was a fun challenge for kids. And then there was only, like, one occasion where we accidentally hit, like, multiple buttons, and then we had to, like, go to different floors. It's
all good.
Okay. So, yeah, I want to show us your elevator button elbow challenge to the face.
There's going to be a lot of people going like,
this is very awkward.
Trying to lick.
Our next topic for Disney, reopened Disney, is dining.
Yes.
And honestly, I thought this was the most challenging thing we had to deal with.
Yeah, definitely.
So why don't I talk about like kind of what our standards were and our expectations for dining. I knew coming in that my standard for taking off my mask around others was not the same as what Disney's was.
Yeah.
I had a higher standard. And I know there are like some of you out there, like there are some vloggers we know who like are really particular and others are less particular, and we're probably on the more particular side of this. So Disney is allowing indoor dining. They're doing table service dining. And they are basically eliminating 50% of the tables. And same thing for if you get quick service and you're in a location. They have these... like stickers on the tables, and they say this table is not available.
Not available.
It's staggered, so it's like every other. And that's all fine. But we are not comfortable being in indoor spaces with masks off. Because when you eat, everybody has their mask off. And it didn't make sense to us to do all these precautions and work so hard to wear these face masks to prevent the spread of aerosols. And then magically... at dinner time, we just think that like the virus just is going to take a break for dinner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's dinner.
Well, it's gained its dinner.
It went out for dinner.
It went out for dinner also.
Like our attitude is that the virus doesn't care that it's dinner time, and I'm just not comfortable being only distance 6 or 7 feet from another family who doesn't have masks on. Right. Now, if they have masks on, that's different. Yeah. But like, I just wasn't comfortable with it. And so we just had, ahead of time, we knew. We were like, we're not going to eat indoors unless we have very, very low level, like low number of people in a space. We are going to plan on eating outdoors. So the struggle was finding places that were like covered from the rain or the sun. Right. And then were like sparsely populated. Yeah. And so our strategy was we ate at off-peak times. So we tended to eat a late breakfast in our hotel room. Then we would eat like a really late lunch. We try to get through till like 2:30, 3 even. Yeah. Because that's when the dining establishments have very few people there. And then we would typically close out the park and then get food, take it back to our hotel room, and then we would eat our dinner in our room. That way we only had to manage one meal in the theme park each day. And then the rest, the breakfast and the dinner, we could be comfortable and at ease in our rooms. Yeah.
It worked out really well. I think we only ate inside 2-3 times.
Well, we ended up having a couple times where we felt comfortable eating inside. Yeah. Satuli Canteen at like 3:30 p.m.
There was like nobody there.
There were, that place is a huge hangar, right? I mean, it's probably like 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. There were, I think, 4 parties in there. Right. And so we went and looked, and it was like, oh, there's really nobody. Like, we can go over in this corner, and there's not a soul.
Yeah, we were 20 plus feet away from anyone
30
else.
feet. Like, and they have these big wall partitions that are, like, solid. So that was a good space. We felt really comfortable there. We didn't dine in Regal Eagle.
Regal Eagle.
There were literally one other family. Yeah. And they were across...
We were like kitty corner, like
across the restaurant from them. Now, if every guest was like us, they probably couldn't function.
Yeah, this is true.
Well, I recognize that, but you know what? This is what we needed to be comfortable with the trip. Now, we did have one sit-down restaurant. We had one actual table service restaurant, and it was Topolino's Terrace because we really wanted to try the character breakfast, and we did it. And we had a really good experience. However, when we walked in and I went up to the podium and I turned and looked into the dining room, I was a little bit horrified. Because I had seen some friends and people I know who had gone in the first week of opening, before the parks were open. And it was like 4 families in the whole restaurant, right?
Right.
They had the place themselves. And I'm just like, oh, great, I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, we went in and, I mean, it's just every other table.
Right.
It's a lot of families.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we can do this. And so I went up to the hostess and I said, I don't want to be annoying, but I don't know if I'm comfortable dining here. Can you please give us the most isolated table you have, and we'll wait longer. And she was fantastic, and she gave us a table in the far corner of the restaurant, as far away from everybody as possible. And it was, I feel moved that like she cared enough to do that. And she said, oh, I totally understand. That's fine. Yeah. And that really meant a lot to me. It was harder to see the characters. But you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, that's fine.
I want to live. So I don't care. If it was harder to see the characters, that was a small price to pay for me being able to relax and have a comfortable meal that felt good.
Yeah.
Other stuff to consider.
Yes.
Swimming. Okay, here's another kind of pain point for me. Swimming at Disney right now, and the reopening stage, you are allowed to remove your mask. I don't know how people think that this virus magically doesn't enter the swimming pool with you. I mean, you brought your lungs, so you brought aerosols with you. And it's like, there's this appearance that a lot of the people going to the pool just seem to like not care.
Yeah. And
they just, whatever, they're just having a good time. Yeah. Well, we wanted to swim. We had children who really, really wanted to swim and partake of these pools. However, we had a real strict standard for like how busy those pools could be.
Right.
So the only 2 pools that we went to, I'll tell you, the resorts we stayed at were Beach Club, Animal Kingdom Lodge Jumbo House, Copper Creek at Wilderness Lodge, and Polynesian.
Yeah. We
only ended up swimming in 2 of the pools. We swam in the Jumbo House pool.
And to give you an idea, like Jumbo House is basically empty. So
only the 5th floor was being used.
So only
by
people
DVC.
Who are coming over from Kidani, who are willing to ride a shuttle bus, could go to it.
Oh, Kidani has a good pool. They would use that pool. So anyway, there were maybe a dozen people in the pool.
Yeah.
And it's a large pool. There were like a dozen people. We had no problem distancing from the people. Yeah. We just kind of selected a time where it looked not too busy. And we totally set the expectation with our children. If we get down here, like we checked it. And when we were coming back from the park, and it was like, okay, it looks pretty good. And we go and get changed into our swimsuits, and we're like, you have to know, if we get there, and we're like, this is too busy.
Yeah.
We don't get to swim. We hope we can swim. So we set that expectation, and we also explained if it gets busy, we're leaving.
Yeah.
So we went down there. We probably swam for about an hour, had a nice time there. And so that was good. And then Polynesian was the other pool situation. The pools at the Polynesian, even though the cash rooms are not open, it's only DVC right now.
Right.
Only Disney Vacation Club. That's only 3 buildings. Those pools were packed.
No.
So we lucked out. And so I went and I talked to a lifeguard and asked the hours of the pool. And they said, well, this was on a Saturday. And they're like, okay, they open, it's like 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. They said, but tomorrow on Sunday, we're going to open at 9 a.m. And I was like, ding, 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 we're going. And then went straight to the pool right at 9 o'clock. We were the only family there. Yeah. It was like us and like 8 lifeguards.
Yeah.
We had the kiddie play area at Polynesian. We had the main slide. We had the whole thing to ourselves for probably an hour.
Yeah.
There was nobody else.
That was great. That was perfect.
It was such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Literally. So that worked out perfectly. We were so happy we could give the kids that experience. And I didn't feel scared at all about our safety. So early bird on the pool. Be the early bird on the pool.
Yeah.
Right. One thing I was going to address was the place that I thought was the most difficult to do physical distancing was shopping.
Oh, yeah.
Stores. Some of the stores are tight.
Yeah.
So if you want to shop and you're concerned about physical distancing, like I am, you probably should be, I think. So I would recommend shopping at off-peak times. So for Disney, a peak time for shopping is actually right at park closing. Yeah. Because they close all the attractions and then people start moving towards the front. And so like for, like the main stores, right? Like the Five and Dime, or like Emporium or, Mouse Gear or whatever. Although that's not really in the front now. But anyway, So people start moving into those stores. So if you want to avoid those crowds, definitely hit those places earlier.
Yeah.
So that you're not in that like frenzy.
Or during the middle of the day.
Yeah, like earlier in the day.
Yeah.
So because it's hard, like admittedly, and then you're focused. You're like, oh, I want to get this thing.
Oh, look at that.
And I want to see this thing. And then you turn around and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm right by somebody. Like, I'm sorry. And I don't know. It's hard.
It's tough.
Hard.
My other feedback is that Disney has many of their doors marked exits.
Entry only, exit only. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was tough because, like, we went into the Emporium, or no, it was confectionery, and there's one entrance, but they don't have any signs that tell you where the entrance is.
Right.
Right. So you're kind of like, where do I go?
In that voice.
Yeah.
I felt like there were like some places where they enforced like, this is exit only, can't walk in here. But then other places they were like, we don't care. Walk through whatever door you want. And at Beach Club, they had their entrance had steps.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, we have a stroller. We can't
use
go that. Through there. No handicapped person like in a wheelchair can use that, or no ECV can use that. So like, we have to go through the exit.
Have to go through the exit.
And so I don't know. I felt like that didn't really help.
Right.
Crowd levels.
Yes, crowds.
Generally, we experienced very light crowds.
Yes. With
a couple of exceptions. Hollywood Studios is busier.
It's busier.
And it's not busier everywhere. It's only busier in Galaxy's Edge and around Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Yeah. Those are the specific spots. So if you're trying to avoid the crowds, you can avoid that.
Right. I would say if you really want to avoid like waiting in a line with a lot of people, just don't go on Mickey and Minnie's.
Yeah, that's a busier one.
Yeah.
Generally, the crowds were like very comfortable, and I thought it was an acceptable level. Our last 2 days, we felt a noticeable increase.
Yeah.
In the number of people in the parks, and it was a weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday, so maybe there were like more locals, or they did increase like the number of annual pass holders who were allowed to book park reservations, and maybe that's what we were seeing.
Yeah.
But it was a Magic Kingdom day and then a Hollywood Studios day, and we noticed it, and the wait times were longer.
Yeah.
And the crowd levels were higher. We were a bit less comfortable, and it's more of a struggle to do all those things.
Right.
And so we kind of felt like where we were for most of our trip, we were comfortable. Like that was sustainable and manageable. If our whole trip had been the last 2 days, that would have been a lot less fun for us. And that would maybe make it. And if they keep increasing and inching it up, I'm not like dying to go back with those crowd levels. That's a lot more stressful to me.
Yeah, and it's tough. I feel like
because of the measures we have to take.
Right.
Under normal circumstances, it would all be light.
Right.
Right. But like with these health considerations, it felt like right at the tipping point for me.
Right. It's tough because that Saturday, that was at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, it was busy.
It was busy at Magic Kingdom, but then it was empty like everywhere else.
Yeah, maybe we just picked the wrong parks to go to. If you don't want crowds, go to Epcot and Animal Kingdom.
On the weekend.
Or just Epcot and Animal Kingdom. Like, just been lighter.
Yeah, they're like
easier.
Would you like to walk on to
Flight of Passage?
Flight of Passage
yeah,
every single time? Yeah. Well, then you should go to Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
right now.
And Magic Kingdom was like, it was fine.
Yeah.
But a little busy here and there. And then Hollywood Studios definitely was the busiest.
Yeah.
All right. Next topic. Your burning question. You're dying to know. Did we get COVID-19? Well.
So far, so good.
Not that we're aware of. Not that we're aware of. But, I mean, we kidding about it. But in all seriousness, we are doing a self-imposed quarantine right now. We don't have any symptoms to indicate that we are ill. We all seem to be fine. But we also recognize that we could be asymptomatic carriers, and we would never want to endanger the health of anyone in our family or community. And so as a courtesy, as a responsibility to others, which we take very, very seriously, we are quarantining and separating ourselves from others until we are confident that we are safe. So we're just kind of waiting it out, filming some videos.
Yeah.
And working from home for you.
Yeah.
So, so that's a really important thing, because I know that there are going to be people who are critical and say, hey, this is really irresponsible. How could you do this? You're making other people sick. And it's like, well, we're taking a lot of precautions and we're working really, really, really hard to not hurt anybody else. We don't want to hurt anybody else. We really do care. And we think that there's got to be a balance point, a point at which we have to live with this for a while, because it's not going to go away real soon. We know we've got to live with this for a while. And so let's try to explore some new ways to live with this and balance out those risks and try to minimize them as much as possible. So that's what we're doing. Okay, probably the biggest question of all. Do we recommend going to Disney World right now?
It's a loaded question.
Okay, I'll start. I'll answer first and you answer.
You answer first.
I'm going to answer. I'm going to say, for most people, no. I would not recommend it. There are very specific demographics for whom this would make sense right now. But it's a very specific group, okay? If you can drive without having to really stop a lot, this might make sense. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't fly, because we did fly. But you're throwing a lot more variables and risks in there. And we definitely felt an increase in the amount of air traffic from when we left. It was very sparse and very few people. When we returned, there was definitely more people. More people traveling. So we felt like going earlier was better for us. Another group that, boy, it's going to be a long list of things that. So who should go?
Who should go?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say anyone should go.
Right.
But who might be a better candidate for this? Like I said, DVC members, annual pass holders, people who like go more often. So it's not like your once in a lifetime trip. If you have any kind of pre-existing health conditions that put you at greater risk,
don't go.
Do not go. This is not the time for it. This is another one that I have not heard anybody address. If you go at this time, you need to be detail-oriented. You need to be self-aware. You have to pay attention to these details. If you want your experience at Disney to be carefree, I don't have to think about anything. This is just so wonderful. Yay!
Everything's provided.
Everything's just done, and I'm just...
and
that's great. Like, some of you love Disney that way. This is not the time for a trip like that. But if you can be really disciplined, detailed, plan really, really well, if that is your personality, or whoever plans for your family can do that, that helps. If you have children, you have to be absolutely focused and diligent in supervising them. And the younger they are, the more you have to carefully supervise. You know what? Honestly, even teenagers. I retract that statement. You have to carefully supervise all children. And I would not let children out of my sight in current conditions. I would never let even teens go off and do anything.
Because
in the theme parks right now.
Probably the biggest offenders I saw were teens.
They were the most likely to try to bend the rules. So, you just have to be really, really self-aware. You have to be strict. You have to set your standards and your expectations. And this is probably the most important thing about this. If you personally don't take this seriously, please do not endanger the lives of our cast members or the other guests by going. If you think it's a joke and you're not going to take the proper precautions, and you don't take it seriously, please do not go and be around all these people who are working so hard to keep this place that we love open. Please do not do that. I did hear one family on our whole trip. I heard one family where there was a teen who was kind of joking about it. And, and somebody, I think a cast member said, hey, pull up your mask. Make sure you pull up your mask. And the kid kind of just did it halfway and kind of just left it. And then he's like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't want to get the virus. And he kind of laughed, and his family laughed. And I thought, you shouldn't be here. If you think it's a joke, don't be here, because you're being careless. And if they're being careless here at Disney, they're being careless at home.
Right.
What have they brought to Disney? So, please be responsible if you are going to go.
And I mean, I think I think by this point you've probably already gotten that message that, we expect people to obey the rules, and we follow these rules at home as much as we do at Disney. And I would say if you don't follow these rules already at home, then you probably shouldn't go.
Yeah, you need to practice it. Your kids need to practice wearing masks. You need to practice wearing masks. You need to be used to all these things. And because this is how we're going to be living for a while. Yeah. Anyway, this is going to be life.
I will say, though, that this is, if you're expecting that your kids are going to go back to school, this might be a good opportunity to like really get your kids used to having these requirements on them.
We kind of refer to it as like
face mask boot camp.
Yeah, face mask and hygiene,
PPE
and physical distancing boot camp for sure.
Yeah,
it was that, and it trained us really, really well. Yeah. And after like a day or two, we were like the kids were like professionals. They were like, mask on, wash the hands, soap and water, do the thing, get the hand sanitizer, go on the ride. After the ride, hand sanitizer, it's like, oh, you want a handful of popcorn? Go wash your hands at the washing station. And, it was like, you just kind of had it all down. This is probably overkill, but we even change our clothes when we go back to the hotel room. We don't sit down or lay down on beds with, like, if you're going to put your face on it and your body to sleep, we don't want to touch it with the clothes that we were wearing in the theme park. So we would come into our rooms and just kind of change into whatever you're going to sleep in. Like your pajamas or whatever, your t-shirt. So we take it really seriously, and we expect everybody who goes to do the same. All right. Finally, would we do it again? Would you do it again?
In our situation, yes.
Yeah, I would do it again. I would do it again, but... I wouldn't do it like now. Like I wouldn't want to leave now.
Yes.
I would do it again in the circumstances that we did it. Like the timing and when we did it.
Yeah, it's tough because I think things are getting more busy there.
Yeah,
because people have seen that the wait times are shorter, and so more people are showing up as expected. And
we kind of actually thought that might happen.
We thought that would happen, and that was one part of our decision to go, was we said, wait times are short now. We should probably go now before everyone figures it out.
It's not about the wait times. It's about the number of people there.
Right.
And we were like, they're getting to be more people. We should go and get back before things start to get busy.
Yeah, but the wait times are directly reflections of that.
Yeah, that's true. So honestly, like in a lot of ways, this was maybe the best family vacation we've ever had.
Yeah.
I think it was like pretty awesome vacation. I had an amazing time, even with all the restrictions, even with all the hoops we had to jump through, and the awkwardness and the mild discomfort of the mask. It really is not a big deal, obviously. Yeah. Even with all that, even with pictures with masks on, I still had like a really wonderful time after being isolated and being home and sort of in this quarantine mindset for so long. It was a breath of fresh air, ironically. Yeah. It was really good for me emotionally to get out and to do something I love. Yeah. We are super, super grateful that we got to do this. Mm-hmm. And we really cherish the time with our family. And I'm just so grateful that we got to do this, that it worked out, that we could still do it. I'm looking forward to planning our next trip, which will probably be summer of 2021. That's what the long-term plan is. Hopefully it's under better circumstances, but they could be similar circumstances. We don't actually know.
Hard to tell.
We are really excited that we got to vlog a lot of the trips.
Yeah.
So we're going to have all these videos for you so you can see what it's really like, because we realized a lot of you don't get to go right now, and we want you to experience the fun, and we want to take you along with us.
Bring a little magic home.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's what we would be doing. If we hadn't gone, we would be watching others.
We would be watching
experiences
others
for sure. Would you recommend going to Disney?
Yeah, so I feel there are definitely a bunch of reasons not to go.
Solid reasons.
Solid reasons not to go. I think, for most people, it's not a very good fit. And
I talked to probably 20 different cast members about it.
Yeah.
Like had a one-on-one and was like, are you glad to be back? Do you want to be here? And, I realize they're not going to be like, oh, I hate this. But they were like, yeah, I'm really glad to be here. They're like, I want to work.
And I was happy to be there to support them.
Right.
And I said to almost every cast member, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking that risk, but also, doing your job.
And we owe it to them. We owe it to the cast members to do our job as guests, to keep them as safe as possible. And so they deserve nothing less from us. Yeah.
And so I would just want to say thank you, cast members.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, cast members.
We do love you guys, and
you guys are the best.
We hope everything can just return to normal as soon as possible.
And in the meantime, everybody treat the cast members with the respect and love that they deserve, and please be mindful of their health and safety all the time.
Yeah. And just kind of going back to about going, I don't think it hurts to go to support these people, because if guests don't show up, then if it was completely empty, Disney wouldn't have it open right now. So, if the demographics fine, if it works for you, I don't think it hurts to go. But take the precautions. Yeah. And if any of our...
understand the risk. There's a risk.
There is a risk.
Understand the risk.
There's undoubtedly a risk. So.
Certainly. Yeah.
It's serious, but at the same time, it was a really fun trip.
It was the best thing about 2020.
Yeah.
It was truly the best thing about
2020.
Yeah,
it was kind of like our only bright spot.
It was our highlight of the entire year.
And I
don't want to give that up.
Yeah, we kind of get a little emotional about it, because it's this is it's like our happy place, and yeah.
We needed it.
Yeah.
Our family needed it.
So if you feel like that, you should go.
If that's how you react. And by the way, I cried when I went. We first went to Hollywood Studios, and I cried, right?
Yeah.
And then
she cried in multiple
every park.
places.
Okay, this is the statement. The theme of the whole trip was, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe we're actually here. And I kept saying that. And I remember I was on Space Mountain. I'm like, woo! I can't believe I'm here. I'm so happy I'm here.
So happy I'm here.
I'm so happy. And I'm on Rock and Roller Coaster. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm here. And I just kept doing that. Everything that we did, I just was like, oh, I can't believe I'm here.
Even something, so here's a tip. Channel 74.
Oh, yes.
Shows Happily Ever After.
From 6 to 10 p.m., I think.
Yeah, I think.
And we did that the last 2 nights.
Yeah.
And,
I would have done that every night.
Tears. The kids got up and they were dancing, and we were eating our dinner in the room while we watched it. And I got really sentimental. Yeah. And it's just a special place.
Even just watching that there was magical.
It was magical, and it's just a great place to be in.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't believe we're so mushy about it.
but it's great. We have so many good memories there.
We really needed that. Yeah. Our family did. Yeah. So, all right. So I think we'll end there. Now that I'm crying, I think we'll end there. And well, that's it for us from the Magic in the Music. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you like this video, please make sure that you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button as well, so that you know when we have new content coming out. We love to share with you, love to share the things that we're passionate about, and it's always so much fun to be with you guys. So that's it from us. And remember, there's magic in the music. Bye.